Howdy, y'all.
Hey Josh, how's it going?
Hello.
Good, Henry. Hey. Jason, Austin, good to see y'all. We'll give it another minute and then we'll jump in. Lauren. Everyone wish Lauren a happy birthday. What, Saturday?
Sunday.
Sunday.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Lauren.
Thank you, guys.
Lauren, you ain't still partying?
What was that?
Said you ain't still partying?
No. Not anymore.
All right. If other people are late, then they're late and they miss out. But we're going to jump in to a conversation that I think we as realtors all need to be aware of. And that is the ever-changing real estate market, otherwise known as like the environment in which we're operating in right now. So as we all know, there are ebbs and flow to our industry. Traditionally, what the ebbs and flow look like is kind of like a bell curve, where we start out really slow in January, February, and then March, we start to peak with business, because typically in our historical data says that March is the start of spring. When the weather starts to turn, we start to see more people want to get out and buy houses and also sell houses. That peak happens, the top of the bell curve typically happens in April, June, even July. And then we start to see a quick drop in the market in August, once kids go back to school, because typically nobody wants to move their kid while they're in school. We don't want to move school districts, et cetera. You've already got your teacher, et cetera. And then we start to see a big slowdown right around the holidays in November, December. And it all cyclical, it all ramps back up, right? So there are many shifts in our market within the course of the year. Well, when you add in typical things like interest rate hikes, the economy, gas prices, we are experiencing a lot right now, all at the same time. So I want to kind of open it up real quick. And those of you, let's see, Lauren was on our mastermind here at our office here in Columbus. We had a mastermind this week, kind of around the similar topic, but I wanted to ask you guys, since you guys are out in the field doing this stuff, to contribute here. What are you seeing in the market right now that is impacting our ability to do business? This is your chance to let's have a conversation here.
Interest rates rising.
Can anyone tell me where we're at on interest rates right now?
8-1.
What was that?
I think I said something like 5.81.
Okay.
I just saw something yesterday that said, I think 5.74 maybe.
So you guys are both really in that similar ballpark, but yeah, what we're seeing is high fives right now. Now, compared to where we started the year when we were in like the threes, what are you hearing from either clients or hearing from people that you have real estate conversations with about in regards to interest rates?
I think that most people just hear that they're rising, but don't even really understand. Most of the people that I hear it from are the people that definitely don't follow it all the time. They just see things about it and then they just catch on to the idea. They don't actually know like what it means for them or what it could mean for them.
Yeah. And we're going to get to some script play, not play, just some script, some potential reactions to those type of people here in a minute. We're also going to talk about how we can better educate people about what that means. So Emma, I'm glad you brought that up. What else is impacting our ability to do business right now?
Well, recently, I mean, when I tell people about that, I'm a real estate agent, I'm interested in helping them. They just say, well, let me know when the houses are going down price, and I'll consider it. A lot of them are kind of almost waiting for the crash, kind of on the sidelines.
I'm seeing a lot of that also.
Yep. Can't say y'all are alone. A lot of people have had enough with this type of market. Well, the seller's market that we were seeing at the start of the year, they've just had enough of it. They're tired of either submitting offer after offer and being let down, or they're sick of, prices, affordability continue to decrease. So yeah, I'm totally seeing that too. What else? Are gas prices influencing anybody?
Yep.
War. You think that's influencing people? You think people are scared? I would say 100%. Inflation, the local economy. So all these factor in to our industry. And so this is why we need to be having this conversation. I'm glad you guys are on. You guys care about advancing your skill sets and sharpening the tools in your tool belt on how we can combat people's negative perceptions or incorrect perceptions of the housing market. So wanted to really quickly talk about, I just talked about the bell curve of the typical industry, right? What we're seeing is typically what happens in, let me back up. Last year, what happened, just so that you guys can be aware, because many of you have been licensed for about a year. So that puts you at right around now. Last year, what happened in our market here in Columbus, and then therefore I'm going to assume across down to Kentucky as well, July 4th to about Labor Day, we saw about a 2-month window of just stagnant. It felt dead, where like everybody was either traveling, and this wasn't just in my business, this was in a lot of agents' business. July 4th hits, it's a holiday, and then people just seem to lose interest in looking at homes, in listing homes. And so we saw a major slowdown, dramatic, up until right around Labor Day, so early September. So I want you guys to be prepared for that, philosophically speaking, also financially speaking. We need to be smart stewards of our own money. So for instance, if we were gonna maybe go blow some money on a car or something that would be an extravagant purchase, I might want to caution you against that, simply because we don't know when you pair the traditional slowdown with all these other factors. I just want to coach you guys to be cognizant of the potential impact to your wallets. Now, that's not all doom and gloom to say you can't run a successful business right now. We just have to go back to what we know is going to work. And so over the course of last week and this week, I have now met with most of you. I still have a few people that I need to do some one-on-ones with to run numbers. And what we talked about in running those numbers is where you're currently at 6 months into the year and where you wanted to end the year. So there's a gap, right? For most of us, let's say we want to close a home every single month. We want to close 12 deals. And if we've only closed 1 or 2, well, then we've got a gap of still 10 homes we got to sell in order to meet our goal by December 31st. In order to do that, there is a simple calculation that we can do to figure out how many real estate conversations I need to have in order to get me to that goal. So for Austin, Emma, Lauren, we've already had that conversation. I'm reaching out to everyone individually to coordinate with y'all some schedule, just 15 minutes to run through some numbers. The important thing here is not to get scared because of the market shift. It's to buckle down and take advantage of this, because think of this, 10,000 realtors here in Central Ohio, 10,000 realtors in Central Ohio. How many of them are seeing all this doom and gloom and saying, I'm checking out? I'm going to bet a lot. The people that buckle down during this hard time are the people that are going to be successful. So this is your vote of confidence. When the times get tough, work harder, grind. You will be the one standing at the end of the day, and those other 90%, they will falter. And you'll be there to get your unfair share. One thing that we can do, and Brad, you just jumped on, we're talking about the market conditions right now and what's impacting things and how we can combat it. We're also talking about preparing for the worst. So how do we as realtors, you guys, Emma, you mentioned this, a lot of people are uninformed, misinformed. I think Lauren said, or somebody said the other day, that people are ignorant, and that's not a negative conversation. That's just seriously, like, they just don't know. In a housing perspective, what rising interest rates mean, what the future holds. And so how do we go about educating them? Any thoughts about that? Like, what do we say? What numbers can we show them to maybe educate people?
Yesterday, I posted a stat that Motto Mortgage had shared with the decades timeline type thing and what the percentages were. And it shows that right now it's still lower than it ever was.
That's good information. We talked in our mastermind, and I think most of our agents kind of feel like if you're a buyer right now and it was 3% and now it's almost double that, I don't know that historical information does you much good mentally. If I'm the buyer and I've never bought a home before, I'm saying, well, yeah, but it's double what it was. So I'm going to be paying a lot more in interest. I do like that little tidbit of education. What other opportunities are out there for us to share information with folks?
Well, I think inviting them to our, anything we do, if we have a get together or whatever, inviting them to educate them on a topic, that's always good.
Absolutely. Events are always a great way to not only educate people, but also to build that relationship. So we've done first-time home buyer seminars before. We've done investor panel discussions before, and there's always that educational component. If anyone here is interested in what to cover during those, holler at me. I'd be happy to share. What else can we do to guide people educationally?
Video, social media.
Yeah, that's where all the eyeballs are anyways. Why not do I do Tip Tuesdays, but that you could do, Real Estate Wednesday, whatever. You could just drop little nuggets, 30-second nuggets. You could say stuff about the economy. You could basically, you want to make yourself sound like you are an informed realtor, real estate agent, and that you're the local expert. That's what people want to see. That's who people want to do business with. So one of the things I'm going to go back to is very, very basic here. You should all be able to see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Wonderful. All right. My MLS is going to look a little different than Emma and Austin's, but this is the Central Ohio MLS. We're going to do something here. It's a quick practice that's going to make you sound like the expert, but it's going to show you as the realtor, myself, I look at this daily to see what's happening in our market because there's a shift every single day but especially when stuff like this happens. And I'm going to show you what that shift looks like. So today in Central Ohio, there are 2,568 homes active for sale, 2,568. I'm going to add coming soon because those are homes that'll likely be listed by Friday. So plus 279. So total, I have 28, let's just round to 2,850. Okay. 2,850 homes active or coming soon. So by Friday, it'll likely be about 2,850. What does that mean? That information there doesn't really carry much weight unless you check this every single day or every single week. And you know that I personally check this frequently, and I know that we've had almost 1,000 homes added to our inventory in the last month. So what does that tell me right away about the market? It's slowing down, but just how much? So if you want to sound educated, if anyone's friends with me on social media, go back and look at my, I think it was yesterday, a market update. We posted something about this number, 2,850, divided by how many homes have sold in the last week. So if you look up your active and your coming soon, that gives you a grand total number, a large number. Then you're gonna look at how many homes have closed in the last 7 days. 736. So we take that first number, that large number, and divide it by 736. So 2,850 divided by 736 equals 3.86. So we're at almost 4. What that number is how many weeks of inventory we have in stock. So if we had 0 homes, I want to slow down on this to make sure everyone comprehends this, because it's a practice you can do in about 20 seconds. And if you're not doing it, then you're not keeping up with the market. And I don't care where you're at, you've got to be a pro. So like Pat, Henry, if you guys have never seen this before, write this crap down. Y'all need to know how to do this. So if I know that we're at if no more homes hit the market from now until 4 weeks from now, it'll take us 4 weeks to sell through every home. What you need to know is that a few weeks back, like a month back, we were under 3 weeks of inventory. So we have incredibly slowed down the rate at which we're selling homes. However, the other number you need to know is that anything under 16 weeks of inventory, 16, that's 4 months. Anything under 4 months of inventory is considered a seller's market. Can somebody quickly explain what a seller's market is?
It's when pretty much the market is in favor of people selling their homes.
Bingo. It's that easy. None of this stuff, guys, that I'm talking about is rocket science. Is anybody have any questions about that calculation and the way I got there? It's pretty simple, right? So if I didn't have to explain that to you, it would have taken me 10 seconds to calculate. And so I should do this every day. I should be a realtor that's up to date and an expert on my market. And I'm going to sound really knowledgeable when I have a conversation at Chipotle with somebody in line who says, hey, Josh, I haven't seen you in a while. How's the market going? I should be able to whip it out. Well, actually, it's still a seller's market, but things are slowing down a little bit. And so what does this conversation look like then? My conversation is always glowing. It's always awesome time to buy and awesome time to sell. We have to think of ways to spin this data. So are we having the conversation to say, oh, it's slowing way down, period? Or am I saying, well, it's slowing down a little bit, but I'll tell you this, it's still a seller's market. Sellers are still getting multiple offers, but instead of having 20 offers, they might only be receiving, 6 or 7. They're still going for over asking, still getting great terms. But from a buyer's perspective, it's also a great time because you're up against less offers, because the rising interest rates have eliminated certain borderline buyers. That's my spiel. Steal shamelessly. I want y'all to sound like you know what you're talking about, because you need to have an opinion. And
Good question.
your opinion needs to be have some salesman craftsmanship to it. Meaning you're encouraging both parties, whether you're a borderline seller, a borderline buyer. This is the only part of being a realtor where I turn on the politician speak or the salesman speak, because I want to convince people it is not doom and gloom.
Hey, Josh, quick question.
Yeah.
So if 4 months is still considered a seller's market, do we even need to tell them that there's a slowdown? Because if we don't tell them to slow down, they would still tell them the seller's market. That increases the urgency, right, to buy.
Yeah, and that's where you can kind of craft your own response. I like to acknowledge the market of the moment by saying things seriously have slowed down. But why is that good? Because on the buying side, you have more options and fewer competition.
That's
on
true.
the seller side, I'm telling you, hey, yes, it has slowed down. And here's another piece, Henry, that I want you guys to be aware of. All that information I told you about 5 minutes ago about how the market starts to dive in August/July, that's information you need to share with any borderline seller. Why? Because that creates sense of urgency. I was on the phone with a for sale by owner yesterday, or they were thinking of for sale and by owner. And he said, well, why should I use you? He was kind of a a-hole about it, honestly. And I said, well, we market, yada, yada, yada. And also, like, I'm going to guide you and educate you through the process, such as, and I was trying to create a sense of urgency. Like, if you have not already thought about listing your home quickly, then you're going to miss out on thousands of dollars if you don't time it right. And what I was hinting at is use me, because I'm going to guide you to listing it prior to August. We're going to hit it in July. We got to. Otherwise, you could be missing out on thousands of dollars. So I hope that helps a little bit. So in terms of script play, like, know your numbers. I'm not telling you to go post that there's 2,800 homes for sale and the math equation. Don't post that. Nobody cares about the math equation. Let's be honest. They only want to know, is it a good or is it a bad time? And if you were just to say something like there's 4 weeks of inventory, that's a number I can comprehend. There's 4 weeks of homes for sale. I can comprehend that. And then I say, and thus, great time to sell, easier time to buy than what we were seeing, a month or two ago. What other conversations should we be having in regards to those people who are saying, maybe they're misinformed, like Emma, you were saying, who are saying, I'm waiting on this bubble to burst? What conversation points should we be having with those individuals?
Well, one thing for here, we're getting that new Ford plant thingy. So I've been like going back to that and being like, I'm not really sure that we're going to see much of a decrease around the area because there's so much commotion going on with that new Ford plant. And this is just like right on the outskirts of it. So I've just kind of been telling them, like, we're not going to see it.
Yeah, what I've seen typically with those people, they're pretty much set in stone, and there's not much you can say to them from what I've seen.
Yeah, you're probably right, Jason. And yet, if my goal is to stick in their craw, to stick in their minds when it does come time for them to change their opinion, then I am at least going to try. I'm going to inform them of, hey, well, actually, this, right? To Emma's point, here in Central Ohio, you guys have heard it, Intel is coming to Central Ohio. They're building a massive multiple billion-dollar campus. With that will come tons of jobs. Anyways, if you guys have a Ford plant, same diff, right? If you're in an area that has more jobs coming in, then more homes available currently, which is the case for us here in Central Ohio and likely the case for you in Kentucky, then you have what's called a housing shortage. What does it mean to us when we have a housing shortage? Let's talk realtor economy.
Well, I've been noticing tons of new builds, and there's a couple new farms that I've noticed up for sale.
So people are looking to sell their land because we need to develop more.
Correct.
Okay, in realtor economy, that means, okay, great, they're gonna build, but we're still a year out from those homes being built.
Mhm.
So we have a supply chain issue. What happens to our economy, just America's economy, when the supply chain breaks, when COVID happens and China gets shut down and locked down and they can't ship us all the stuff that we wanted before? What happens?
Prices
Log
increase.
jam.
Oh, go ahead.
Log jam.
Logjam, lots of people want it. It's not available, prices increase. It's simple economics, and I'm not very smart, and I know that. So to combat those people that say the bubble's gonna burst, okay, yeah, eventually the market will come down. If you wanna wait 10 to 15 years, albeit, go ahead and do that.
I'll still be around.
Seriously, 10 to 15 years is when this housing market, most prognosticators are saying it might level out. Here in Central Ohio, we talk about recession, okay? The globe or the United States is going to talk about a recession. Everyone's talking about it. Recession simply means our finances are being impacted. We're seeing inflation, et cetera. I'm no economist. I just know that when people hear the term recession, they stop buying houses as quickly and nilly-willy as they did before because things aren't great. They're scared. So it's our job to say, well, hey, there may be a recession. You're right. However, Central Ohio, the Kentucky areas that you guys are in, we have too many jobs for us to be greatly impacted by a recession. What does that mean? It means simply this: there's still going to be too few homes for the mass amount of people that are coming here. So what that mean? It means that home values are going to continue to go up even if interest rates climb. Why? Because people need places to live. It's just common knowledge. If you can share that little bit of information with people, you're going to empower them to be more educated about the state of your current situation. Whether you're Kentucky, Ohio, California, doesn't matter where you are, you got to know how to speak to the language of the industry. So Lauren the other day was talking about, I want a great script for what to say to people when they're talking about the bubble bursting. And I really feel like we use the term script as some perfectly laid out series of words that will convince somebody to change their mind or act. And I think what Jason said actually does ring true. Most people that say, well, I'm going to wait for the bubble to burst, their mind is made up. But if we say nothing, we've lost a golden opportunity to educate them so that when they do come back around, they use us, right? So that conversation, in my eyes, looks like a little bit of compassion for where they're at, because maybe they're suffering hardships, right? So it's a relationship building opportunity, but also just a mild bit of education to say something along the lines of, yeah, hey, I don't know how you're being impacted by all this stuff. I just know how to say from a realtor's perspective, our market's not going to slow down much anytime soon. We're going to see more homes come into the market for sale, which is great for you if you're buying, but we're still going to see multiple offer scenarios, and home prices are going to continue to appreciate. Last year in Central Ohio, and this is where you can throw in some numbers, we appreciated 15% from the previous year. That's a huge sum. So if I bought a $200,000 house, it's now worth $230,000 just 1 year later. we started this year out on the same exact trajectory. So we're going to see a double digit appreciation this year too. It's not going to stop. So if you don't buy soon, you're going to kick yourself because that $200,000 house was now $265,000. So regardless of what the interest rate is, you're going to be paying a lot more. So that hopefully doesn't sound like some rehearsed script, because it's not. It's just me being a good friend to that person, saying, I understand what you're thinking, and here's the reality. And I'm an expert because I threw a couple bits and pieces of numbers in there to make it sound like I know what the hell I'm talking about. Am I making sense?
So I wanted to add a few, like the two quick things, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So one thing that I was thinking, actually, I made a kind of post the other day on Instagram, was even though interest rate may be like say 5 or 6%, but if your house is appreciating double digits, mathematically, you're still getting plenty of equity off that. And two, I think one thing I've talked to people about before was back in college, my economics professor actually told me, he was like, you never know if there's a bubble until the actual bubble bursts. So you can't say there's an actual bubble. So I think one thing you can tell them, you can say there's a bubble, but we don't necessarily know there's an actual bubble.
Yeah. Yeah. When we were in our mastermind, they said, some of the agents said, what bubble? When you ask a person that, they're going to be like, they're going to backtrack real quick, because they're going to be like, oh, is this just the new normal? And I love that response. And I like that you're educating people there, Henry. I think that's a solid point.
Cool, thanks.
And piggybacking off of that, at our mastermind, an agent who I think he said he did it for, he's had his license for 40 something years. He said that this is actually very normal, that it's a part of the flow. And he said that this isn't atypical. It's a little bit crazy, but that it's normal, and he's seen it plenty of times over the years. So maybe using that also might help.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people do know is 2007, 2008. And some of us were really young. I was even too young to understand what was happening during that time, but there was the economy just collapsed. And with that went the housing market. And if you look back to why that happened, that's what people are scared about. They think that the housing market is going to crash. There can be a change in the dollars, there can be a change in the stock market, but the housing market is not primed to crash anytime soon, because everything that happened in 2007 and 2008 was due to shady lending practices. The government has made sure that never happens again. Now, there may be backtracks a little bit, like backslides a little bit, but it's not going to be a crash like we saw in 2007, 2008. And you can simply educate people on that piece as well. Say, hey, we're not going to see that again. We're not going to see a housing collapse again because of all the government inclusion into lending practices. And I asked a lender to pop on here. I'm hoping that he can, because him and I had a conversation about this yesterday, and it was he put it in really good terms about how long he foresees this interest rate hike going on for. For me, I'm going to steal half the stuff he said and throw it into my repertoire when I'm having conversations with people. So we're going to give him a few more minutes to see if he pops on. So we talked about numbers. Let's talk more about interest rates. Let's go there. So how do you go about having that conversation with somebody? And I have an idea in the back of my head of how you could best have the conversation with somebody when they say, like, hey, I wanted to purchase a home, but now interest rates have gone up so much that I don't know that I can afford it. How do you have that conversation, and what tools maybe do you use to have that talk?
I actually kind of had that conversation with my parents recently about that, because they were talking about how, low interest rates were back, just a year or so ago. And now it's like 5 or 6%. And I was like, well, I mean, because I had a conversation a while ago with actually refinancing like a lender. They're like, you millennials have it easy. Back in my days, it was 20%. And then I also told him, I was like, if you actually, look at historically, like, you would not have been complaining about this interest rate like before COVID. The only reason why we're complaining about it is because we've been kind of spoiled by the low interest rates, but 5-6% back before COVID was not that bad.
Yeah, does anybody ever use a mortgage calculator? If you, and this is, I'm going to show you on my phone. Go to your app store on your phone. I've got this. It's the one that looks like a little calculator. It's the easiest thing in the world to use. It literally says mortgage. It's a mortgage calculator. It's free, so don't worry about paying for anything. But it looks like this, okay? And you can see there's a few things that I can adjust. So if I'm having this conversation, at the top there, it shows you what your estimated monthly payments would be. Now, I always preface this with, this is an estimate, but let's just say that a previous person that was looking at homes was looking at, 360K and under, and that they were well qualified to maybe put 20% down. And if not, then just change the number. Then you lock in what the interest rate is suggested to be, how long their term is, what's that say, taxes. You estimate all these things, you can give them a pretty good ballpark idea of how much they're going to be paying for a home. Why is that good information for you? Because then you don't have to wait on a lender to get that information for you. But you can also show them the difference in what their monthly payment would be today versus when they were at 4%. Just with the click of a couple buttons. So we look like the market pro, and we can maybe ease their mind and saying, hey, I know the interest rates are climbing, but that's only added, what, $60, $70 to your monthly payment. And have you guys, I don't know if you guys have been following along, but there's been a lot of posts lately that say, marry the house, not the interest rate. Marry the house, not the interest rate. My meeting yesterday with my lender, he said that the average person is staying in their home 10 years now. So if I'm marrying the home, I'm committing a decade of my life to the home. I shouldn't care as much about the interest rate, because the interest rate's going to change. And if the interest rate takes a dip, what can I do? Refinance. If the interest rate rises, then I'm glad I got in when I did for 6% as opposed to 8%. My guy's not on yet, but he forecasted, and he talks to a lot of people in the industry, a lot of other lenders, and he said that the thought is that the Fed raised the interest rates pretty quickly. They scheduled 4 interest rate hikes for the course of 2022. We're already halfway through those, and they think that they raised them quickly to try to offset inflation, and that these next 2 hikes will be a lot smaller, and that will end up right around 6%. So I asked him, well, how long do you foresee us being at 6%? He said, the thought is that as long as the war continues, and as long as China continues to have a shutdown due to COVID, that's about how long we can anticipate. So his hope is that 6 months to 2 years, they'll stay around 6%, maybe mid 6s, but then after that, they will likely come back down. So that's what this lender, who's a top 1% lender, told me. So he knows his stuff. So if we're having this conversation, this is a conversation I don't love having, because I don't like talking numbers, honestly, but or dollars, but inflation and interest rates, those are real things. So we've got to know how to talk to them so we sound like pros. So in theory, you tell somebody to marry the house, not the interest rate, because the interest rate you can divorce and get a better one if it gets better. Or you can stay locked in at a lower interest rate if they continue to rise. But we're likely not going to see like a climb towards 10%, according to everything that I'm seeing and hearing.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying to people is like, basically along the same lines, like the rate, if the rate goes down, you can always refinance. And if it goes up, you're benefiting from a lower interest rate from there. So that's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing that I'll end with, I don't have much more to talk about on this topic though, is let's go back. I'm going to share my screen again. I want to go back to this number here. Active homes now, we're at basically, let's just say 2,600 active homes. That's almost 1,000 more homes than what we had like a month or two ago. So if I'm being strategic here, I'm actually going to have the opposite conversation. I'm going to go after people who were looking for homes 2-3 months ago when it was the wild, wild west. And I'm going to reinvigorate them. I'm going to say, hey, John, it's been a couple months since we talked. I know that you were really disenfranchised with the whole multiple offer situation, and you just couldn't afford to go way over asking price and bridge an appraisal gap. But now the market is a little bit more saturated. There's a lot more options, which is great. And there's less competition for those options, meaning you're not going to likely have to spend $50,000 over asking price. You're not going to have to pay $20,000 cash if it doesn't appraise. And the cool thing is, if you did have that $20,000 cash, you could buy points from the lender to decrease your interest rate if you wanted to. But anyways, what I'm getting at, Joe, is Joe, it's easier to buy now. And the interest rates, although they're not perfect, they're still great. So would you consider us reinvigorating your search so we can get you in that perfect home? Because I don't know if you've seen, Joe, but your rent continues to go up. And the average rent right now, I don't know what the average rent is, so don't quote me on this, but let's just say it's $1,500 a month. Well, that's a $250,000 house you could go buy and build wealth from. So my conversations is to do this. If I had my rathers with y'all, go back to the people who last year, even this year, have kind of stopped looking and try to restart them. When you bring up this information, I really feel it's gonna be eye-opening, and you might convince 1 or 2 of them to restart their search. Am I making sense?
Yes.
So Jason, I know you've been at it for a minute, and Lauren, you've been at it for a little bit. The rest of y'all are only a few months in maybe, but go back to the people you started talking to a while back and just educate them. This whole call is all about educating our clients and being the best fiduciary we can possibly be, and also using it as a marketing opportunity. Jason, are you in that condo you're gonna list? Getting it ready? When's that thing go active?
So she wanted to go active the 6th. But I'm here doing all the work that's gonna work. So I don't know when this thing gonna get listed. Get to paint around stairs, but it's mostly on her, man. She her checklist. Except for you, I'm coming over and doing stuff like that myself, man.
Well, let us know when it's going active so we can help you sell it, or have a buyer maybe for it, and get you in contract quick. But yeah, just push her. I mean, we just talked about timing. You don't want to wait till August. That's for darn sure.
Exactly.
I feel like we've got a window of about 3 weeks from July 6th to the end of the month to really make hay while there's hay to make.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, we got some.
The one just sold up. Now I was saying there's one that sold her in the complex.
You're breaking up a little bit, Jason. I
least
can't really
40,000.
hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying there's a. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There was another condo in the complex that sold recently within the last week, so that made her pretty excited. Sold for like 40,000 above asking, so we'll see.
Yeah. Now, at the same time, we need to make sure that we're not over promising.
Mhm.
Because the market's changing, we don't want to say, hey, I'll get you 40K over asking. We want to
Oh,
be
no,
real
not at all.
cognizant of the way things have changed. And we said it at the mastermind the other day, like under promise and over deliver.
Got you.
All right. Well, I don't have anything else. Does anybody have anything either on topic or completely off topic that they'd like to bring up? Anything we need to talk about?
I'm good.
All right, guys. Thanks for jumping on here. I want to encourage y'all. Bold is happening in August, so we got about a month away from that. I'm definitely going to be attending, and I'd like all my team to attend because Bold is it's a game changer. So we like to do it once a year if possible, hone in on our minds. Now, Emma, that's going to be in Central Ohio. I don't know when it's going to be in Kentucky, but whenever it is available, make sure y'all plan to attend. That's all I got. Have a wonderful 4th of July weekend. Lauren, happy birthday. Live your best lives and go enjoy today.
Happy birthday, Lauren.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Talk to y'all later.
Bye.